Hello, everybody. It's 11 o'clock, so Central Standard Time, a little earlier for some of you, I know. So thanks for joining us. This is the Affordable Housing Fund Competitive Application Pre-Application Conference. That's a mouthful. Um, this is going to be a pretty simple meeting, but we want to review a few key elements of the solicitation document and provide you any other information that you need prior to viewing the properties and filling out the applications. Our agenda is pretty simple. The introduction, I'll go ahead and do that now. I'm Lance Dixon. I'm a real property specialist in the real property section of the housing department of the city of Wichita. Be a test on that later. But I am the key contact person and your point of contact for this solicitation. And I'm the person that you come to if you're having technical issues or anything else for that matter. My name and contact information is littered throughout this solicitation, all the associated documents, and everything else that goes out via email. So you should not have any trouble reaching me. Uh, the first thing that we're going to do is review the key elements of the solicitation document. These are these are elements that we think are important that we address and that you know and have a clear picture of. There are also elements from the last solicitation that we did in the spring of last year that came up with questions or issues on behalf of our applicants. So we want to address those now so that everyone's clear.
Welcome to the audio conferencing center. Please enter a conference ID followed by pound.
Okay, that wasn't me, so sorry about that. We'll go through any updates and changes that have occurred since the solicitation went out and any major changes that happened between the solicitation in the spring and this one. And then we'll end with questions and clarifications that you have. I'm going to ask that you save your questions until the end so that we can kind of get through what we need to, and then we'll be happy to answer your questions. And don't worry, you can always send in questions after this this pre-application conference, and we will address those via an addendum, and we'll go over that here shortly. So let's go directly to the solicitation. This is page 1. We'll start here and we'll just go over a few things in the first few pages of the solicitation. First, we will want to point out that this solicitation is for developers. It's for developers to purchase and rehabilitate the existing single-family home units that were part of the Housing and Community Services Department's public housing program. If you are an individual wanting to buy a home, you can partner with a qualified developer to purchase the property and rehabilitate it for you. So you don't need to hang up if you're here. But keep in mind that developers have to meet certain requirements um, in order to participate in the program. So units in this pilot may be purchased for a price at or above market appraised value, and developers may apply for up to $40,000 per unit in Affordable Housing Fund resources to acquire and rehabilitate the units. HF resources also may be requested for substantial rehabilitation within a quarter mile of the public housing properties in this pilot. So what's important to note here is that the $40,000 of affordable housing funds can be used in the purchase and rehabilitation. This differs from our solicitation last spring when these funds could only be used for rehabilitation. The purchase will also work this time. Also, any properties within a quarter mile of the public housing properties in this pilot can also qualify for the AHF funds. The difference being there will be preference given to the HF properties. Um, but if you have properties within a quarter mile and you feel like it'll work for part of what you're doing, you can certainly apply for that. The selection and recommended applications to the city's Affordable Housing Review Board will be based on several factors. These are the development plans and approach. This is for the overall development. If you're a developer doing several properties, this is what your overall development plan and approach is. The credentials, qualifications, expertise of the development team, the financial condition, performance record of the applicant, sources of financing, affirmative marketing plans, and whether you are a member of either a disadvantaged business enterprise, a minority business enterprise, or a women's business enterprise. There are extra points in the scoring that you'll see later that apply to those designations. So if you are one, you would certainly need to let us know that. The per unit development plans, for instance, if you're proposing to do 10 units, um, the unit development plans for each unit would be required in your application. And I will point out that these applications are submitted per unit. Not one application for all the properties you're doing. And we'll address some of the redundancies in the application that you can do a little cut and paste on and save you a lot of time. So, and the utilization of public housing units and the feasibility of the proposed project scope, development plan, and timeline. There are scale bonuses that are awarded, and we'll go over those when we get to page 8 for the, there are differing bonus awards for the number of units that you're proposing to purchase and rehabilitate. These competitive applications will only be received electronically on the Zoom Grants platform, and there's a link to it, prior to 10 a.m. on Friday, February 28th. So no printing out and submitting that way. They all have to be completed and submitted through the Zoom Grants platform. All units are available for walkthrough inspections next week. I sent out a schedule of this yesterday. So if you didn't receive that, go ahead and email me after the meeting and I'll make sure that you get it. But basically, we're doing Tuesday through Friday, 9 a.m. to noon. And we'll talk more about that when we go over the schedule of events. But there is, again, my contact information. I am the point of contact for this project. And any questions that you have are due by February 14th in writing, and we will respond to those questions via an addendum. So everyone will have access to everyone's questions and the answers to those questions so that you're all on a even footing when it comes to knowing the ins and outs of the program. The tentative schedule of events, we released the application last Friday. The pre-application meeting is taking place now. As we just mentioned, the walkthroughs are next week. We do have the week of February 10th tentatively reserved, but only if needed and if specifically requested. We're going to kind of do that more of an appointment basis if possible, rather than holding all of our staff there for the entire week. So please try and get everything done next week if you can. If not, we want to accommodate you. We want to sell the properties. So just keep the lines of communication open with me and we'll get you in the properties. Questions are due by email by February 14th, as I mentioned. The addendum with the question and answers will be published on the 21st of February. Applications are due on the 28th of February. And the evaluation will take place at the Affordable Housing Review Board. And I put in some tentative dates, 17th, 24th, and 31st. Those may or may not be the dates. We have to make sure that our board members can arrive and have a quorum when they make these decisions. So I will just commit to sometime in March. And then we're looking to award the projects in April, and everyone will be notified as to the awards. I want to point out that these 56 units that we're selling are part of an overall group of 342 single family homes that were part of our public housing program. We're getting out of the business of public single family public housing units. So we are just uh, um, getting, I don't want to say getting rid of, we are presenting opportunities to purchase these in in small groups. This is a HUD requirement. We can't do all 352 at the same time. It's just not feasible for us or for them. So we're releasing them in groups. If you're interested in uh, properties that are outside of this solicitation, you can go. It's just simple Google City of Wichita housing for sale, and it'll take you right to it. Our listings are there. They all have flyers, and many are open on the open market. We've also enlisted the help of a real estate broker to market some of those through the MLS. So they're for sale all over the place. And if you need more information on that, again, email me and I can provide you links and contact information. All units purchased and rehabilitated through the pilot program must be utilized as affordable housing upon completion, subject to the applicable affordability periods listed below. Applicants should determine whether these units will be marketed for affordable home ownership or rental. It's important that you make the distinction in your application and fill out the associated documents. So for those properties that are going to be resold to the public, we are requiring that you use the AHF Homeownership Down Payment Assistance Program. This program provides a 20% down payment assistance to your buyers, as well as $2,000 in closing costs. This helps them with the affordability. This amount goes down as a silent second mortgage. Um, it's partially forgiven after a number of years after an affordability period is reached, typically 10 years for the amount we're looking at here. And then it just sits there. It's only repayable by your buyer if if they sell the property or if it transfers ownership within the family through an estate or something of that nature. So um, for those of you proposing rentals, we're using tenant-based vouchers. Be approximately 28 available, and these have a 15-year affordability period. This is to assist rental households at or below the 50% uh, average AMI. So if you have any questions on that, there's a chart in the documents of the Zoom grant solicitation that tells you what those amounts are, and it's based on family size. Okay. Developers should present their vision on how their projects will provide overall neighborhood and community benefit, including how their application assists in developing a healthy neighborhood mix of homeowner and rental properties. Developers should also provide comprehensive per unit specs for rehabilitation to justify AHF funding requests for each unit. Each proposed unit must be applied for individually in Zoom grants in order to be considered. Contracts will be awarded on a unit by unit basis, and developers are encouraged to submit applications for all the units they reasonably believe they can complete within 18 months of the contract being awarded. Again, these proposals are applied for individually. You refer to, if you're doing a group of them, you can refer to the group in your overall development plan, but each property has to have its own application. And then we'll go over some of your project objectives that we want to see in the application, or that the HRB wants to see in the application, is to demonstrate the qualifications, competency, and capacity of respondents, um, conformity with the requirements of the competitive application. It should demonstrate the qualifications of the applicant and the staff, and make sure that you demonstrate that they can complete the project. It should also specify the proposed approach that best meets the competitive application of project. The developer must address each of the service specifications under the scope of services, which we'll go over now. Um, Basically, we want to see that you're qualified to complete the proposals that you put forth. So qualified developers or development partnerships must demonstrate experience renovating single-family units, adequate capital and financing to complete all awarded projects, experience using federal, state, and local government funds and requirements, and be able to meet all provisions as outlined in the funding agreement, which is in the Zoom Grants platform. Um, these are these are pretty robust qualifications. Some developers might meet some developers might not meet others. If this is the case, you can partner with other developers uh, that have expertise in those areas that you lack. So don't let this be an impediment to you. We will recognize joint ventures and encourage you um, to pursue this option if it's needed. So the selected developers will be responsible for completing all projects awarded, including the purchase of all public housing units awarded, rehabilitation each unit with the allotted allocation and time frame, meeting local housing codes, affirmatively marketing the unit, and securing income qualified homeowners or rentals as end users. For current public housing units, the developers must purchase units as proposed at the price equal to or greater than the fair market appraised value of each unit. And just so you know, when you look at the appraised value that's listed on every property that we have here, we're not padding. That's exactly what it was appraised at, and that's the minimum that HUD will accept for the property. So don't don't let um, your own valuation skew you when you're making these offers, as any offers below the appraised value will automatically be eliminated. So important to note that. Housing rehabilitated with AHF resources must meet all applicable codes, ordinances, and time of project completion. Housing rehabilitation must be modest in nature and affordable to income qualified buyers. Both you, the developer, and us, the city, will have to certify that the applicant meets HF program income requirements prior to any contracts or sale of properties. The HF funds will be limited to the subsidy of actual costs involved in the purchase and rehabilitation of homes, and the developer fees earned in connection with the completion of each unit. This basically we don't just award you a lump sum. You will be invoicing for your expenses, and go through those invoices with the proper backup documentation. We will be doing site visits to make sure that the work that's being billed for is actually completed and that it meets the requirements of the funding agreement. So keep that in mind. Funding provided under this agreement will be provided in the form of zero interest acquisition development subsidy loan to complete the project as above. So basically, we want modest improvements to the homes. We want you to make them nice. We want you to make them affordable. But to quote my department director, we don't just want to see lipstick on a pig. We want to see quality developments at quality prices, and I'm sure that I'm preaching to the choir on that one anyway. So all units renovated under this competitive application and assisted by HF must result in affordable housing outcomes to benefit low to moderate income households. This benefit must be secured through the City of Wichita Home Down Payment Assistance Program for ownership, through tenant-based vouchers, through LIHTC, or a similar program for rental units. So down payment assistance, again, we discussed the down payment assistance that they would be getting, the 20% and the 2,000 in closing costs. The tenant-based vouchers are available. Um, and again, I think to clarify, these vouchers need to be these are not project-based vouchers. They're not awarded with the property. So you have to rent to somebody who has one of our housing choice vouchers. We recognize that this could lead to little longer vacancy rates for you in that you have to find a voucher holder, not just open the rental to the general public. So we're looking to see that you account for a little longer vacancy period in your performance that you submit for your rentals. But just keep that in mind. There are no new vouchers issued as a result of this program. It's just current HCV clients and voucher holders. All proposed purchase prices must be established at a fair market value minimum. Developers and partnerships must demonstrate past experience utilizing scale or local government sponsored funding. Again, it's important to note that if you're reselling these houses, um, any any profit you gain from the sale over and above what you have invested into the unit will come back to the Affordable Housing Fund. So it does no good to do minimal rehab and then try and increase the price to garner extra profit because the extra profit comes back to us. You're capped at your development fee, which is 12% of the rehabilitation costs and does not include the acquisition costs of the property. So keep that in mind when you go to price and sell these properties. Okay. Program staff will conduct preliminary reviews of all applications and evaluate completeness and feasibility. And respondents may be asked to clarify information in their submittal application. Again, staff is not making the decision on these awards. It's the Affordable Housing Review Board. And our first cursory look through this will be to make sure that you've completed your application properly and that you have an even shake when it comes to um, these awards. We don't want to see a technical error or a missing piece of information cost you an opportunity. So we're here to help you, and that's what our review is for. So the AHRB will score each completed application and make selection recommendations to the City Council based on a comprehensive score and overall fulfillment of program goals. Any and all respondents may be required to appear before the AHRB and explain the respondent's approach to the project and or respond to any questions that they have. HRB recommendations will be presented to City Council, and the ultimate acceptance of proposals will be the decision of the City Council. The recommendation from the HRB will weigh heavily on that decision, but it's no guarantee that the council will adhere to the recommendation. The HRB will review each application and make their recommendations. So that's important to note. Okay, when it comes to the scoring, the overall development application, that's 70% of the scoring. So again, this, if you're doing several properties, this is pretty much going to be the same for all your properties. So recommend you going into Zoom grants, filling these out, doing a cut and paste method for all of your individual um, applications for properties. But the overreaching development plan and the neighborhood impact statement will be 15 points. Credentials, qualifications, and expertise of the development team will be 15 points. Financial condition and performance of the applicant will be 15 points. Sources of funding, 10 points. Identification of buyers and selling and affirmative marketing plan, 10 points. And the EDBE, women and minority owned businesses, will be a 5-point adjustment. The per unit applications, the individual information for those are worth 30% of your score, and that's the complete unit development plan, which is 10 points, the public housing unit utilization, which is 5 points, and the feasibility project scope development plan and timeline is worth 15 points. As we alluded to earlier, there is a scale bonus. If you're proposing to do 6 to 10 units, you'll get 5 points. 11 to 15, you'll get 8 points. And 16 to 20, you'll get 10 extra points in your scoring criteria. Other criteria, responses proposing purchase prices below the appraised value requirement for purchases of public housing will be rejected and incomplete. Applicants must demonstrate verifiable past experience utilizing federal, state, and local government. Cost will not be the sole criteria for the selection of the developer. The HRB, at its discretion, may or may not conduct interviews. If interviews are conducted, the HRB may interview part of or all respondents. The city reserves the right to make the award based on the greatest benefit to the city's goals and not necessarily on the basis of highest sale proceeds or lowest amount of AHA funding required. The HRB will invite all applicants to present at one of their meetings. And this is just their chance to meet you, hear your overall pitch for your proposals, and chance for you to ask or for them to ask you any questions if they have them. Following review of the HRB, the highest rank applications will be recommended. The city reviews and approves or disapproves the selection and authorizes necessary signatures. The city reserves the right to accept or reject any or all applications or modify them. The city, through its housing director of housing and community service, reserves the right to accept or reject any or all applications, any parts of the application, and to waive formalities therein, determine which is most beneficial. So, going through all that, we did that pretty quickly, through all the legalese and all that good stuff. So, um, I will I do want to say that updates and changes since this solicitation went out, or since the one that was presented last spring, the biggest difference to the one that was solicited last spring was that you can use these funds for purchase and rehabilitation instead of just rehabilitation. And again, that split can be yours. You can use it all for the purchase, you can use it all for the rehab, or some mix, between the two. I'd also like to point out that 2410 West Haskell has been removed um, from the solicitation. When you go to look at properties, I also want you to be aware that that property is still occupied. So we want to you know, stay off of their property and not park in front of their driveway, things of that nature. So they're in the middle of a lot of homes that are still for sale. So we want to keep their disruption to a minimum if we can. And then the property walkthroughs, we did our best. Our our maintenance supervisor, he put these together in clusters that are most clustered together by location. And then you'll see on the different groupings, the staff member that's assigned to this um, group of properties. This is the person that'll be around if you need help with access, general questions like where to park or things like that. But they're there for logistics only. They're not there to answer questions about the program. Again, those will be need to be submitted. I will be mobile going between these different groups. Should you need anything, and in my email that I sent out with this schedule, I put my phone number in there. If for some reason you can't find one of our staff members, because some of these groups are spread out quite a bit, you can call me. It'll be forwarded to my cell phone, and I can either come myself or get somebody to assist you. Okay, I've done a lot of talking, and I'm a pretty quiet person. I don't like to do a lot of talking. So now is your turn. If you have any questions or clarifications that need to be made, now's the time to ask them. Again, this is my contact information. Should you think of something after the meeting, or if you have something uh, that's more complex that you need to write out in email form, we can do that too. Again, these questions are due February 14th, and they'll be answered through an addendum. So with that said, I'll turn it over to you and discuss anything that you want. I will say that um, we are joined by Sally Stang, our department director, Steve Burt, our assistant department director, and Carmen Hoffine, who's the real property section manager and my direct supervisor. So they'll be here to assist me if I stumble or don't know the answer to your questions. And with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Excuse me, Lance, this is Kevin Harding. When you said the walkthrough starting on the 4th, uh, do we contact Jeremiah? I'm looking at that Jeremiah section of 25th in Minnesota. And I think also, can you actually go back to that list? I'm trying to, I mean, I have it, but would you have, yeah,
Sure.
it's that group. So group 5, and then right below it, what is that group? Yeah, group 6, group 5. I just wanted to see those. Okay. So Richard, Eric, or how do we contact them since you said you don't want them out all day on the
Yeah,
property?
they'll be open from 9 to noon. And when I say open, they'll be out there at 8:30 unlocking them all.
Okay,
So you can just come and go as you please.
okay, okay,
They're going to pick a central location in the groups of whatever properties they're assigned to. But as you can see, some are pretty spread out, so you might not see them, and that's where you can call me if you need assistance. But no,
okay,
they'll just be open and unlocked. You can. This will be your time to look through it. I would like to point out that um, I recommend that you bring your camera, your tools, your whatever personnel you need to make your
okay,
plans and estimates, because this will be your time to get in the properties.
okay. Thank you.
Good question. Thank you, Cavis.
Hey, Lance, this is Steve
If I
Fellmeyer.
could add something real quick. Oh, I'm sorry. If I could add something really quick.
Lance, can you please go back to that list?
Yes.
2 of the houses at the bottom were subject to fires and are complete losses. You won't be walking through those. And there is the expectation that we are going to bulldoze those houses prior to sale. So we don't want people walking around in a house that's dangerous. But they are out there at the appraised value for just the land, and we will be taking the action to bring them down.
Point. Thank you, Sally.
Hey, Lance, this is Steve Fellmeyer. I remember seeing as part of the first RFP a report from an engineering group looking at the asbestos costs that they estimated would be required to remediate each property once rehabilitation started. And I don't remember if that covered the units that are now being in the second RFP, or if there's a separate report like that. So is there something like that available so that we can better understand the work that's already been done to understand that cost in engineering?
Yes, I will get, I think now that you mentioned it, we're having a technical issue when I was uploading those to Zoom Grants, and I assume it's because of the size of the documents. So I will break those down into smaller documents and put those back in the Zoom Grants platform under the documents section. There are some that are the same. There are some that have been added. So I'll commit to do that by the end of the day.
I have another question for you, Lance. In regards to litigation of the contamination of that groundwater in that community, I might be asked a question you already know about. I've not heard particularly in groups 5 and 6. Is there a study on that? What's the steps to doing as we buy those properties?
I believe there is mention of any contaminated plumes or anything like that within our environmental reviews, but I'll let Sally speak to that more specifically.
Yeah, there has been no VOCs detected in these particular units. That would be something we would be dealing with or addressing prior to making things available. Those reports and that testing information is in the environmental assessments.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Sally.
Hey, Lance. Thanks for doing this conference call. This is Jared Christensen.
Hi, Jared.
Hey, I had a handful of questions. Just wanted to mention a few things. So in RFP 1 that was released last year, there were 16 project-based vouchers available for rentals. In RFP 1 last year, 11 of those 16 were awarded to developers, leaving 5 that was going to be available for future RFPs. It looks like in this RFP 2, there is no mention of project-based vouchers. Are those 5 absolved and have gone away, and now you're moving to 28 or potentially 28 tenant-based vouchers, and the project-based vouchers are no more?
You want me to take that, Lance?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
Yes. The project-based vouchers are no more. We are currently at full utilization. We don't have additional vouchers to issue. And HUD has us at a point where we cannot issue additional vouchers to people from the waiting list or anywhere else. So rather than not making rentals available at all, this is part of why we've pivoted to tenant-based vouchers. That right now we average 40 to 50 people moving every month. And we don't see it to be a challenge. Anytime we are made aware of a newly rehabbed or new available larger unit, 3, 4, like these are, they are swooped up extraordinarily fast and in high demand. And so that is a big difference between the two. Project-based vouchers are actually much more administratively burdensome, in that it requires it requires an additional environmental assessment and can depending on the what other funding's in the project, require subsidy layering review. This will allow us just to issue a deed restriction that the developer agrees to lease using tenant-based vouchers for that 15-year period. If that were to be violated, one, the mortgage on the 40,000 would become due and payable, and then we could actually claw back. That's a challenge, to claw back the property for violation of the deed restriction. But the use of tenant-based vouchers is actually going to make things less administratively burdensome. But that is the reasoning behind it.
Okay, great. Thank you. The other question I still have a few more questions, but the tenant-based vouchers, you mentioned those will be for housing choice voucher holders. Housing choice voucher holders, that's also Section 8, right? So we would be working with Jean and her team to try and find those tenants?
Yes, exactly. And we actually all landlords are directed to affordablehousing.com for listing units that are available for people who have vouchers. And and until we get to a point, and we may be at a point when the development is done, when the rehab is done, that we might be at a point where we're issuing vouchers again. It really depends. Increased costs and reduced funding from HUD has caused us to have to actually stop issuing vouchers to new households. By the end of the year, I'm hoping we're issuing vouchers again, which would put in even a larger pool than just the people that are trying to move from unit to unit.
Okay, thank you. Another question regarding the 40,000 being utilized towards acquisition as well as rehab. If you have developers that are utilizing the 40,000 towards acquisition, what assurances will the city request those developers have to sufficiently rehab those homes for either sale or rental? I guess, in other words, if the developer is getting it for free, what teeth is there for the city to make sure those homes are properly rehabbed and proper funds are being put into that rehab?
Well, they will have to, part of the application process is to show a source of funds, sources and uses. So we'll review what they're putting towards the rehabilitation of the property. As far as our enforcement mechanism, we can call our loan the 40,000. We can call that. So that's really the difference. Also, I'll point out that as far as the rental units go, there's a 15-year affordability period with those rentals. And the way that we will enforce that is there will be more or less a deed restriction document that says that you have to rent to a voucher holder. And if during any of the follow-up visits or business or any thing that's discovered after the fact, we find out that that's not being done, we can call that loan as well. Sally, do you have anything to add?
I just wanted to add to that. They'll still have the same requirements to submit the documentations and proof of the funding that's put in, as well as be subject to those inspections to verify that that work is being done.
Got it. Thank you. If all of the 56 homes, if some of the 56 homes in this RFP are not sold in RFP 2, will there potentially be an RFP3?
There could
Yeah.
definitely be an RFP3. So there likely will be an RFP3 simply because the some of these properties are valued at more than $40,000. And so people who are purchasing a property that might be appraised at $80,000 and gets $40,000 in subsidy against that acquisition is going to be bringing to the table $40,000 that then will cycle back into the Affordable Housing Fund to make funds available for potentially for round 3, which we could be adding additional properties as well as anything that might not sell in this round.
Perfect. Thank you. Last question. Of the homes that were awarded in RFP1, when do you anticipate those homes to be closing?
I wish it was last week or last month, honestly. We are still awaiting the DOT releases from HUD. Crazily, we got the DOT releases on this 56 yesterday. We actually got these before the group of 33. So it's every day we're watching to see if those 33 are coming through. Once those are received, we can schedule the closing date on those 33.
Thanks, Lance. Thanks, Sally.
Sure. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Sally. By getting those releases for this group, that means that it won't be as long of a wait to close on this particular set of properties as it was the first, correct?
Absolutely, because we have them in hand as soon as these the purchase agreements and funding agreements go. So it goes to both the council and the housing board. So as soon as we get those two approvals, we could schedule closings. Unlike the first round, so this is like lesson learned from round 1. HUD is taking way too long on these DOT releases. So we switched the funding around. We're able to use, funding for the city to actually acquire them, so we could start that process ahead of time. We should be actually having both groups. It looks like we'll probably be closing on both groups just a couple of months apart, even though the proposal process is many months apart.
So Sally, if you got awarded and you find out you're awarded in April, we can be closing in May and start billing in June.
Yes, that is the intent.
That's I like that. Okay, and then you have 18. So 18 months or what was it? 18 weeks or 18 months?
18 months.
18 months. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Question on that too. Thank you all for the information and the good questions. I've been taking notes furiously. Let me make. Sorry, struggling with my sound issues. With the 18-month time period, do you have to close on all those at the beginning, or could you spread out the closings over the 18 months? As long as the work is
you need to close it timely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thought so. Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
And then on the $40,000 interest-free loan, is that after 15 years considered paid off?
It's forgiven at that point.
Or forgivable? Okay.
And
then just to clarify on that counting towards purchase, so it would be what the offer that we submit is essentially minus the 40,000 is what we would be expected to bring to closing.
Unless you wanted it to be something different. If your cash flow, you actually say you wanted to bring 60 and then have 20 to use towards the rehab. I don't know why someone would really want to do that, but I don't want to say it's not possible, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, because we'll have plenty of rehab costs, I know, but it's just kind of 6 of one, half dozen of another of where do you spend it. And so if we could I think it'd be a more palatable kind of offer to our lender if there was less kind of costs up front. So that's the only thing I was thinking. So I just wanted to make sure I understood that correctly.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Sally, I just want to make sure, get clarity. It went kind of quick for me. So at closing, you have to close on whatever your properties you purchase or awarded, you have to close on all of those at that time.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Now,
Okay.
mind you, if you had, needed a week in between for some, you're going to do it one group 1 week. We can't carry them across the 18 months.
Okay. Thank you. Good. I just want to say thank you again for this Very good, very informative. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very
Sorry,
much.
Sure. And the recording of this meeting will also be available for reference in Zoom grants should you need to revisit it. And the questions that you ask will be part of the Q&A addendum that goes out next month. So just wanted you to know that. Any other questions before we end today?
And
Okay.
Zoom
So
grant. So
Sorry.
where do you go to get enrolled on Zoom grant?
You just click on the link in the solicitation. It'll take you there, and you create
Okay.
your own profile in there.
Okay. Thank you.
Tom, did you have a question?
No, that pretty well answered it. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
I have
Okay.
a question.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
for all
okay.
your information.
Okay, I'm for Jean Gray, but I wanted to ask, did you say that the paperwork will be available after this for the Zoom? It'll come available to us as well today? What you presented, will it be available to us? Because I didn't catch
Oh.
the first part. I wasn't able to get in on it.
Yes, I will upload that before the end of the day.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Going once,
Thank you
going
very much.
twice. Thank you.
Thank you all.